So sorry for neglecting all you YouTube people out there, but I'm going to make a video. Okay, now, as you know, I don't know if you knew, but I played semi-pro football. I played a lot of football. Not as much, so let me give you the download. So I always wanted to be a football player, so the whole time I was a kid, all we would do is go outside and throw the football, and we would play in the streets, so we would play touch football. So I did that the whole time growing up, and then as soon as I could play, I played Pee Wee League, I played junior high, I played high school, and I played semi-pro. So I've got quite a few years of football, but I did play it at a high level, which was semi-pro. But let me tell you something. When I played, it was back in the early 90s and so forth. Maybe even in the late 80s. I don't know. It just depends on how old I was when I played Pee Wee, but I can't remember. But let me tell you something. One thing that has changed the game a lot is turf. And here's what it's done. I'm going to give you the simple explanation first. It's taken the big man out of the game. Is that a good thing? I don't know. I mean, some of these big guys, that's all they could do good was play football. They didn't look good. They weren't good athletes really, but one sport that catered to their size was football. See, when you're playing on natural grass and dirt, the heavier you are, the more it helps you run faster. Now, I know that sounds weird, but the heavier you are, the deeper down your cleats sink into the dirt. See what I'm saying? So, let's say there was a little rain, or let's say there was no rain, just a normal field. Well, your guys, the skinnier guys, when you would push them, their feet would tend to slide. You know what I'm saying? By a bigger guy. And let's say you have a defensive lineman that's running upfield and the offensive lineman is pushing back and he's pushing against him, digging his feet in the ground. If you're heavier, it helps your feet not slide. I know. I played offensive lineman in semi-pro, and it was on real dirt. And when those small guys would get against me, all I had to do was just hit them real good and their feet would slide back. If they were skinny enough, I could just hold their shoulders and their feet would just run in place like a running man, Not because their feet wouldn't dig in too deep. It was that as well. But it was that my cleats were dug in very deep into the dirt. See what I'm saying? So it was very hard to push me back. And when I wanted to run, I had some really fast acceleration. You know what I'm saying? And so, as you can see, that would change the entire outlook of football. Literally. I mean, I played on turf as well. We got to play in a few stadiums when I played semi-pro. And, man, turf, it feels like you're playing on the same thing. But the thing of it is, it benefits lighter, smaller people. You know what I'm saying? Because the bigger guys, your feet can only dig in so deep into the turf. You know what I'm saying? So the bigger guys and the smaller guys, they have the same advantages. One doesn't have the advantage over the other one. So, am I for it? I'm not really for it. I don't know. I mean, it promotes more spectacular plays, but I was a bigger guy, so, I like big guys in football. Then you get big hits and stuff like that, But, and here's the thought. So turf. So, now in the NFL, almost every field in the NFL is turf. See what I'm saying? So it really only benefits the teams that have a home field that's grass, which I don't know if there's any. I mean, I guess there's a few that have grass still on their home field because half of their games are played at home. But now you see these lighter, smaller guys in the NFL, when before it was a big man's game. You know what I mean? You had to be big. Because when it was wet and when the conditions were bad, you would slide all over the place if you weren't big enough to anchor your cleats in the real dirt. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and you would it would help defensive linemen to be bigger because when they're rushing upfield and pushing against those offensive linemen, their cleats are dug down into the turf. You see a lot of defensive ends now that don't weigh a lot. You know what I mean? It used to be sometimes almost everyone on the defensive line was 300 pounds. But you see these guys I'm trying to think of some. My mind is totally blank right now. But you see these really light speed rushers now. And you may think it was always the case that speed rushers were better. And we just now figured that out. We didn't know that before. Or maybe you just think it was always the case. It was not, I'm telling you. Those speed rushers would get pushed to the turf easily in the old days when they were playing on grass. I'm telling you. I played a lot of semi-pro. I played semi-pro. I know what it's like compared to the NFL. Because when you watch the NFL or when you play on turf, it's just totally different, man. You know? And that's why people didn't like it. A lot of people aren't that big. You know, your average weight in society is like, what, 175? So most people couldn't play football. And that was a common complaint for years and years and years. Oh, these horrible natural fields with natural dirt and grass. You slip, you fall. The running back slips and falls, you know, like. Because in lower levels, people who weighed less and weren't as athletically gifted would play, and they would always complain. So, you know, it was molded eventually to the thought that turf is better than a natural field. But I'm telling you, it's really not. And it's, to me, and let me tell you, it's fun to watch games in the rain and the mud and stuff like that. It's fun to watch a game on a messed up field. That's fun. You know, that's the way football's been for 80 years. You know, you're taking a little piece of football away when you take that away. You know, that's why I don't like some of the things that are being done to the NFL nowadays. You know, I'm not going to point the finger, but I don't think Paul Tagliabue or the old commissioner would agree with it. You know, I don't know, but. And I'm not here to blame Roger Goodell or anybody. I'm just saying I like natural fields, you know. But, and really, I don't see any problem with having natural fields down south where it doesn't even snow. But hey, snow games are funner. When it's snowing, it's fun to watch. You know, I mean, that's just my opinion, you know. But you would see these big guys like Herschel Walker and stuff like that, and they would be able to get a lot of acceleration. You know, those first 3 or 4 steps, they would shoot by the defense, you know. These bigger guys would look like they were just as fast as the small guys, if not maybe even faster sometimes. You know, so these smaller speed rush players and stuff like that, man, they just... It didn't benefit them to be lighter, you know. So in some aspects of the game, you know. And it used to be like when we played on semi-pro, I was a big guy, so I would be running by a guy, like if it was a little guy, and all it would take was a little push or something like that, and I knew I could push them on the ground, especially if it was wet, you know. And I like it that way. I think that's the way football's supposed to be. Not because of that, and not because it benefits the bigger man, but also because of that. It's fun to watch big Goliaths play. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why these 7-footers and these 400-pounders get signed to these WWE contracts, because someone will come out and watch. This person's 8 foot tall, 500 pounds. They'll come out and watch that, just to watch that. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, it is what it is, but I just wanted to let you people know how much turf has changed the game of football recently, and will continue to change it. So let me give one more example. So we played this game in semi-pro, and we're in practice. We're like, what do we have advantage on this game? And I said, well, this is when I first started. I said, well, our guys are smaller. Our defensive backs are smaller than them, so they should be able to run faster, because they had big old, like, 6'4", 220-pound receivers. And so we played press. We came out in the game, we were right up on the line, and those big receivers, when their cleats would start digging in that dirt, it was a little bit wet, and they would accelerate past them freaking small defensive backs, especially if it was bump and run. They would push them, and the smaller guys' feet would start sliding, and there would be slippage as they were taking off, and they burned us they burned us tons of plays throwing these deep balls. And the defensive backs, they're bigger, but they're also faster. You know, and I just couldn't believe that. But when I think about it now, that's why, you know. But anyways, though, so there's a few examples, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for some more reaction videos.